Today I'm going to talk about why Capcom and Evercade are the perfect marriage, how it's going to affect their future, why you should care, even if you don't own an Evercade, how this affects smaller companies like this getting AAA properties, my opinions on this whole deal, and what Capcom means to me. So stick around, you ain't going to want to miss it.
I'm Warren Davis, and you're watching the Evercade Effect.
Evercade Effect.
Welcome, fellow Evercadians and retro enthusiasts. You are watching the Evercade Effect, and I am Retro Q-9. Alright, so after Evercast, I've been doing a lot of reflecting, thinking about the Capcom collection, everything tied together. Initially, when I did a video, I just wanted to give my initial reactions and kind of digest and sort of gather my thoughts and think about a few things. So let's just go ahead and get to it. So here's the first big elephant in the room that I want to address. And I know this has been said a number of times, but I know a lot of people are like, Evercade physical. Listen, you can even see here on the screen that Blaze Entertainment put up, this was the only way they could get the deal. So for me, quite frankly, I'm happy to have it than to not have it. And the other big difference is, don't forget, this isn't an eShop, this isn't downloadable DLC, you're going to have it on the EXP day one. It's going to be there. If you have to do a factory reset, it's built into the firmware. So let's just squash that and get that out of the way. And, for those of you who just are, strictly VS owners and don't plan on getting any XP, that's fine. You can get the Capcom arcade collections on all the platforms out there, including PC and consoles. I know you may be saying, I want to play it on my VS. Who knows what is going to happen in the future? But, no one is forcing you to get an EXP. If you have the means to get one and you want one, you want to support the company, that's great. If not, to each their own. I respect everyone's decisions. All right. So now with that out of the way, let's talk about what this does. So, what this does, now that we have a AAA premium company like this opens the door for Blaze. Because, some other companies, they may be on the fence like, well, why should I do a deal? Blaze is a small company. They don't really have anybody, but now they've got Capcom. Capcom is huge in retro gaming. There isn't anybody that doesn't know Capcom. So that's number one. So that's one of the first things that it does. The second thing is that this is going to boost sales, right? In my previous video, my reactions, there were quite a few of you who are very impressed, who don't own an Evercade, who are like, maybe now is the time to get an Evercade. And they were very, very excited to see this collection. So that brings in this whole new audience to this Evercade ecosystem. You may have not looked at it before. I'll use myself as an example. When I was considering getting an Evercade, and we're talking about the one behind me there, the OG white Evercade, I was on the fence for some things. And then I saw, oh, okay, yeah, they've got some Atari collections, but if I'm being totally honest, the two collections that drew me in, Technos and Namco, that was huge, especially the fact that they had Namco. I didn't care that they weren't the arcade versions. I wasn't sure initially when I got into Evercade. And I was like, well, there's nostalgia there. So I'm hoping now that other people that see the EXP, they're like, wow, we've got a Capcom collection. And in their eyes, that'll make it legit. So that's why this is huge. This is for people who don't know much about the Evercade, or maybe we're considering, maybe to them, now is the time to get it. So I hope that what the Namco, did for me, the Capcom can do that for them. This is a win for everybody, because here's the other thing that is just, so great. We get 18 games built in. What this reminds me of, think of this as kind of like a polished AAA Pico collection, right? As on Pico, we have, there's a few beat-em-ups, we have a few RPGs, we have one, we do have one shoot-em-up technically. So we still have, we have all those elements, we've got platformers and everything, and now, we've got tons of that on the Capcom collection, and we can play it in Tate mode. So how cool is that? And some of these games like 1942, sorry, I was losing my voice there, and all that, those can be played the way games are meant to be played, and I can't wait to test out like Pac-Man and some other games that weren't developed for Tate mode and see how they scale. So this is a huge bonus. And the thing I'll say about with the Capcom collection is because a lot of those games are beloved, like Final Fight. I mean, you can't tell me that, you know, you're just sitting there going through it. You're going to find a game to play. So, you know, it's always on the go. And for me, you know, you'll have them always on the go, is what I mean. Let me dive into that. So, for me, sometimes when I want to bring my Evercade, I'm like, well, what collections? And I do end up popping in Pico 1. Now you've got that permanently there. So for me, the struggle, you know, is real, especially as a YouTuber, where I want to go ahead and experience all the games. I want to share my thoughts and opinions with everybody in the community. You know, I want to experience that as a gamer. I want to play it, the discovery. But sometimes I'm torn because I always want to have that go-to kind of game, that always go-to collection, like an Atari or whatnot. Now that's built in, so whenever a new collection comes out, I can pop that in there, I can play it, and if I want to take a break and play something else, it's there. I don't need to think about, I don't need to change out cartridges or anything. So this is huge, and for some people who are on the fence about this, you know, once you get that EXP in your hand and you feel the premium quality, you're going to be happy the Capcom collection is there. You know, it's going to blow over. You know, and another thing too is that Blaze Entertainment has said that they're going to remain physical. I honestly believe that. You know, their primary intention is physical, having physical carts, but Evercade can be more than one thing. So they can still have unlockable games on the VS. I think we all forget that we've had this for a while. We've had built-in games on the VS. Now, the Capcom is definitely a lot higher quality of a game than we had. Maybe that's why this catches attention, but it's been there. You know, they said they're going to have a secret menu for those unlockable games. You put in 2 carts to unlock a digital game, even though that's physical. So this is all, you know, this is all there. So this should really be no surprise, and it's a good thing. It's not like Blaze Entertainment has said, "Oh, we're going to go ahead and have a digital store. We're essentially going to become like a Valve or a Switch." No, they're not going to do that. That goes against everything that they believe in. But what is okay, you can have some built-in digital games. You can also have physical games. You can have very nostalgic games on there, like Mega Man, and you can have, you know, some different, other cooler, obscure games like Water Margin. Yeah! It can all be there. It can all exist in the happy Evercade ecosystem. So this is a really, really good thing, everyone. So some of you out there may are doubting, you know, it's good. It's good for everybody. And I'd like to point out that, so here's one other important thing too. It would be disgusting and absolutely gross if Blaze said, no, the only people that are going to get it are the people who got the limited edition, or the only people that are going to get it are the people that pre-ordered. No, they're not going to do that. You know, they're not going to screw over their customers, right? Unlike some other companies, you know, with all this pre-order nonsense, would make that happen. Whenever you get an EXP, you're going to have it on there. You're always going to have the Capcom collection. We're good. And they're also giving us a manual, a physical manual too. So another way to look at it is, you know, the Evercade to me has always been like a mini console with cartridges. It's fine to have, you know, it's fine to have some games and to have some things embedded. All right, so I've talked about why this is good, you know, for current Evercade owners and all that, but you who are watching, who are on the fence about getting an Evercade, you know, why is this good for you? Well, the fact that Blaze has come this far and put out this deal is incredible. They are paving the way for the underdog. And so this is going to show maybe other companies out there, you know, that, hey, maybe we want to do something similar. If Blaze can get indie developers, you know, maybe we can have our own ecosystem. Not only that, it'll also show other AAA companies and indie developers that Blaze is serious. And maybe now, these other companies will take Blaze more seriously, and, you know, it's good for them because they'll put their games on this platform. They can put it on other platforms. You know, it's fine to have a game on a Switch. It's fine to have a game, you know, like from the Indie Heroes collections also, you know, on the Evercade. It just depends what ecosystem you want. Do you like it on physical media? Do you not? It's all okay. So this is huge for everybody. You know, when a small company like Blaze gets like, in the end, it helps all of us gamers out. It gives everybody more options. It shows the current industry what is possible. So that's how it benefits you. And if you don't have an Evercade, this might be the turning point where you might consider, you know, to get one. All right. So now I want to go ahead and I want to dive into why Capcom is so important. So let me more specifically say why this is more important to me that it is a Capcom collection and not a Kami collection or a Sega or anything else. So for me growing up, there were 3 big home console players that a lot of you I know can identify with. Capcom was definitely one of them, because you've got like your Mega Mans, you've got your Final Fight, you've got Street Fighter, yeah! And let me just point out, okay, so I'm gonna go, look behind me. You see all my different like toys and figurines. Look down there at all the Street Fighter figures. I've had those for like 10 plus years, and I have some duplicates of like Blanca or whatnot, some variations. I love Street Fighter. You know, I've had those for a while. Those make me happy. So just wanted to let you all know that I'm serious. And Street Fighter 2 for me was one of those games that just revolutionized everything. It started the fighting game craze. Mega Man was just so epic. Even the first Mega Man, at its time, the fact that, hey, here's a platformer, but oh yeah, when you defeat a boss, now you get their weapon. That had never really been done before, especially not in a mainstream way. You know, growing up, that was incredible. And for most people, either Mega Man 2 or 3 is your favorite. For me, 2 is my favorite. And I'll go into a little more detail about that in a bit. I just want to talk more about Capcom. And then, you know, your Konamis had had your Contras and like, you know, Russian Attack and all those other great games. And then Squaresoft Enix had your Final Fantasy and all those classic RPGs. And then for me, you know, a runner-up, not really the console space, but SNK, you know, in the arcade space was huge. You know, not as much, but that's kind of the fourth one I would throw out there. So those were like some of the main influencers for, you know, video game developers back in the day. So Capcom, like 42, 43, played those in the arcade. Final Fight, I remember specifically. So those of you like maybe grew up like in Iowa or surrounding places, Permita, yeah, it was like the low rent version of Walmart. Anyways, they would have arcade machines in there. I had good memories playing Defender, Final Fight. You know, and great thing is, you know, being 3-player. Remember me and a couple buddies, we beat that like on $5. No, I only had to spend like $5 or less. It was crazy. You know, that was a time when I was like really good at those kind of games. And it was just a blast. It was like, you know, for me, like the first beat 'em up that I ever got into. So yeah, that's on there. Strider. Oh, so Strider, I very first played the arcade version. There's a gas station called like Mighty Mart. Then we called it Mini T Mart. Every week it would, you know, or so, new arcade machines would roll out. They'd maybe only have like 2 or 3 on there. Magic Sword. Oh, that's I'll save that story for another video. That was an incredible experience where me and my buddy beat that 2-player. Bad Dudes, played that there for the first time. That was one of those games that changed out. But yeah, Strider. I was blown away. It was just incredible. The sound effects and like the dun-dun-dun-dun when you start off and the sirens are going, it just immerses you in the game. And you know, the main evil villain, the laughing, and you know, like that evil laugh at you and the voice, you know, all this like the different arcade sound effects and voices. Freaking awesome. So, Capcom, you know, has been huge. You know, I challenge anybody to bring up a bad game made by Capcom. There's a reason why. If you see a Capcom game and you want to get a physical, like OG copy of like a Nintendo Capcom game, it's expensive. Yeah, it's in demand and all that. So definitely, it's a beloved franchise, and it means so much to me that they chose that to be the embedded collection. You know, I'm gonna play that for a long time. Yes, you know what? So I can't play Street Fighter 2 multiplayer. Sad truth is, I don't really have anyone else to play it with me anyways. So that's not a big deal. I mean, you know, really, if I did want to play that multiplayer, to be honest, that specific version, you can buy, you know, you can spend a few bucks. You can buy it on your other favorite mainstream console through the Capcom Stadium collection, and then you could really do that. So it's not, you know, it's not a total loss at all. And mention, you know, it's a bonus content. I know I keep jumping over the place and going back, but that's just going to linger in my mind. Okay, so, alright. I know I'm about 13 or so minutes into the video, but I have to talk about why Mega Man is really special to me, alright? So, going back to the first Mega Man, I remember playing that, you know, growing up when my buddies had that. And this is before, like, Mega Man was even, you know, it was just called Mega Man. We didn't know there was going to be a trilogy. Had no idea. And I just thought it was just a very, very cool concept that you have to go ahead and defeat these robots, and you get their, and you get their weapons, and Dr. Wily and the whole, the whole thing, and it was just freaking fantastic. And the game was hard. It definitely wasn't easy. You could, it didn't have a password system. You could keep retrying stages, but then if you turned it off, then that just kind of, sucked. But yeah, Dr. Wily was cool, Dr. Wright, it was kind of a whole neat, neat thing. And so yeah, I really got into that. Now, when Mega Man 2 was announced, for me, that was kind of like Super Mario Brothers 3. That was just an incredible experience, a huge game changer. This was so neat. There were more, robot masters and all different kinds of weapons, and it was longer, and and all that. And this was also back then when it came out, either we didn't, I don't know if the Nintendo Power issue existed. It wasn't oh, well, you want to go beat Metal Man and Wood Man and, definitely Bubble Man, you can defeat, Heat Man easier. I mean, it was kind of if you used logic, you would think that water beats fire and some stuff. But we didn't have that. Maybe from Friends and all that, we knew a little bit. But it was just incredible. It was just they took Mega Man, put it on steroids. The music and everything just sucked you in. I can remember playing it, at a buddy's house, and it was on a weekend day, and I think we'd spent the whole afternoon getting to the final boss. And I think back then, if you did put in passwords, trying to remember if you had to start all the beginning of Wily's Castle. But anyways, we were very determined. And at the time, Dr. Wily's final form was just incredibly difficult. If I remember right, I think you had to use Metal Man or pellet, your pellets. It was very difficult. And so me and him were playing the game. We would kind of we'd trade off controllers, trade off lives, and then we got there. And we just weren't beating the boss. And I can remember at one point, he was just getting really frustrated. And I think he was threatened to turn it off. I'm no! And it was just... it was just, I was just no. I didn't want to give up. I think at one point, he was just frustrated, and I think he left. I'm gonna go out and play. Left his house. I'm no, dude. And I was just, and finally, just after tenacity and perseverance, I beat it. And it was just incredible. This was before save states and all that. And if you look online, you'll see that I think Mega Man 2 is one of the best top 10 endings of all time, and it really gets you. It's sad, that ending here. It's just, it was just, and at that time too, platformers, just to have a story, in a game like that, it was, wow, it was incredible. And so since then, I was hooked on Mega Man 2. Got a copy of it. I can't even remember. Back then, swindled, wheeled and deal. Didn't really own any games for too long, except for RPGs and Street Fighter 2. Traded a lot. I got that, and you could play the game on difficult, which was great. It gave more replayability. But I played that game. All these. Once you have it down to a science, you could beat it in 30 minutes. It got to a point where, I could, if I played the game, it's I couldn't not beat it. I could go down, sit in a setting, had all knew what robot masters to go to. But here's the thing: if I wanted to, I could start off the game and be what, I'm gonna go beat Heat Man. I could beat nearly except for some of the really difficult bosses, I could beat them with pellets if I wanted to. And Quick Man stage, that was just so challenging. But on difficult, I could do it on the first try, all the way through. Once I got really good. And it was just fun to start off with Quick Man, get it, get his boomerang, and I think and time stop. See, that's the other thing too. You had a robot dog that, had all these different modes, had a springy thing. You could ride him as a jet, so that added a whole new level. But anyways, it was just so much fun. I mean, yes, my skill since then is long lost. But if I was a teenager in today's day and age and I was on Twitch, Mega Man 2 would be the game that I would speedrun. That was my jam, that was my passion. Played that endlessly. That was the game that I would speed run, and now we have that. And I also have both of the Mega Man collections for the PS4. So I don't care that that's also an Evercade. I mean, I love it. Like, that doesn't take it away. It's, you know, you can have more than one copy and more than one way to play. You know, that's fine that it's separate. I love that I'm gonna have that, and maybe, you know, maybe I want to go back through. Maybe I want to try to get my skill up and, you know, defeat those robot masters and all that. So yeah, this is just fantastic. Let me know in the comments below. You know, I know there's been a lot of talk, and specifically, you know, what does Capcom mean to you? You know, despite this whole, I mean, you know, if you want, you can talk about the whole like nonsense of, you know, this not being physical and all that other stuff around it. But what I want to know is, what does Capcom mean to you as a gamer? Does this have as much of an impact to you that it does to me, or is Capcom kind of like, meh? I was, you know, never really into that. I would go ahead and love to know. And we're almost at 500 subs, community. I will get the community tab. So if you haven't already, please like, comment, and subscribe. Oh, help me get there. Help me get to the 500 subs. Unlock that community tab. We'll be halfway to go to 1,000. I do appreciate the recent love and attention to my channel. I do really appreciate that those of you out there who do like my weirdness, you know, who do watch my shorts and all that, and appreciate the Retro Q -9 and all those things. It means so much to me. I pay attention to all that, and all of you warm my heart. So again, thank you so much for watching. If you look around here, now go ahead and check out some of my other videos that I've gone ahead and put up. And go ahead and check out my secondary channel, Calling All Retro Gamers, where me and Retro Rich, you know, we do a live show. We have special guests. We're gonna have the Geek Historian coming up at some point. We're gonna have, you know, Sean from Blaze Entertainment on, and we want you to be part of that community. So please check it out.